Hi, I'm Steve, 84XT. Welcome to Ham Radio Portable. Well, today I want to do a little update video of the slingshot video I've done a while back. I've had a couple people run into some problems with the type of fishing rod that they pick out. So I'm going to go over the fishing rod today and help you pick out the proper one to get that antenna line launched as high as you need. Stick with me. If you're already a fisherman, you probably got a slew of rods. If you're like me, I've got a wall full here, and you know, unless they're really broken bad, I hardly ever throw anything away, so I'll save them. But what I want to do is bring you over to the table. I've got 4 rods laid out here, and the bottom one is the one I use for my slingshot. And just on the surface, they all looked identical. So let me go over those with you. Okay, before I go over the rods, just briefly, the motivation behind this update is I had a fellow ham in my club that followed the video and put him a rod together. You know, this is mine here, spinning rod, half of a spinning rod, half-ounce weight, 12-pound test line. He put it together, and I was out of town, and he was launching some lines over some trees. Had some really tall trees. And he texted me back and said, "Steve, you must be some kind of magician with that fishing rod." Well, I laughed at it, and I said, "Well, something's wrong." And so we got back together, and he had finally figured it out, and that's what we're going to point out here today. One thing, if you're going to use the whole fishing rod, there's nothing wrong with that. If you've got a helper that can stand behind you with the fishing rod, just use the whole fishing rod. I mean, it's not a problem. But if you're like me and you're going portable, you want things as small as possible. So that's my reasoning. Got 4 rods and reels on the table here. These are mine set up for fishing, so I do a lot of bass fishing here in the South. But this one over here is a spin cast, and you can use a spin cast. It's just not going to launch quite as high as others. But the problem is the rod. And what my friend was doing was using a rod like this, and it's usually a 2-piece rod. All these are 2-piece rods. But the problem comes in is where the rod breaks. Okay, you see this, where this breaks at? This breaks about 10 inches above where the first ferrule is on the rod. And that is where the problem lies. The second one here, same thing. This is a spinning rod. It's got a big ferrule right here. And it also breaks in about the same spot. When I pull this one off, you've got a good 8 or 9 inches there after the ferrule. Okay. I've got another rod here, and rod makers do all kinds of things, especially on spinning rods. This one breaks, and hey, you don't even have a ferrule on the bottom part. The ferrule stays with the top section. So that's no good at all, unless you're going to use the whole rod. I'll just leave that out there like that. And when I got to looking at mine, and what my friend pointed out is there is a problem when you launch fishing line. If the end of the rod above the ferrule sticks out, and I'll explain how this works. What I want to illustrate here is how the line actually comes off the spool, and how we are running into problems with different types of fishing rod. I mean, the line doesn't come off the spool and just go straight out through the ferrule. This ferrule is made with the big loop like that for a purpose, and I'll try to draw it out. When the line comes off this spool here, it's coming off, and it's kind of flopping real fast, and then when it hits the first ferrule, it kind of contains it somewhat, because and then it's smaller, and the next ferrule is smaller. So when you look at a fishing rod, and the first ferrule here is big, and they get all the way out to the end till they're just pencil size, that's the purpose of it. And what happens here, if your rod is longer here, it does contain it, and they're smaller, but you could be flopping here against it and even wrap around the part of the rod that's sticking out. As you see on mine, there's nothing to wrap around here. And I guess it was just the luck of the first rod that I picked. It was a rod that the other end was broken. So this is where it connects the two pieces. Had I used a rod longer, let me grab one. If you're using a rod like this that's got the extra length past the ferrule, this is where the problem lies. Your line's coming off, it's flapping, it goes through the first big ferrule, but it is still flapping, and it can come up against the rod a little bit, but what happens here at the end, it'll actually loop over the end of the rod, create a lot of friction, give you a lot of frustration. I know that my buddy Matt, thanks for pointing this out, but he was only getting about 25 foot out of a good shot. And if you've got a rod like this and it's not any good for fishing, go ahead and cut this rod off about right there, and that will solve your problems. Don't get down in here where the ferrule's attached, just above it, and sand it off with a little sandpaper, make it smooth, and that will solve your problem. Well, there you have it. We've updated the issue of the fishing rod. If you've been using one that's got a little extra length on there, cut it off, or pick you one out at the store that's a lot like this one here. But it's all about safety, but in this case it was frustrating people. So hope that works out for you. If you've got any comments, leave them below, and I'll take a look at them. I hope everybody's having fun launching with the cheap method of a slingshot. I know I enjoy it. I launch all the ropes for everybody in our club. So yeah, there you have it. So I think I may get out and play some radio today. Why not? It's early. Hey, y'all have a good one, and I'll catch you next time on the next Ham Radio Portable. See ya. 73.